Today, I'm talking to the CEO of Classical Conversations about what it was like to grow up homeschooled and how that prepared him for the role he plays today. He seems surprisingly well adjusted, but I don't know. You be the judge. Stay tuned. This is the Sam Sorbo Show. You've heard me talk about Mike Lindell, who I adore. You know, he's the inventor of My Pillow, and how that pillow has given me a good night's sleep that I need. In fact, I never knew how good I could sleep before I had My Pillow. Mike continues to roll out new offers on his products, and the latest one is on his towel sets. Towels aren't something you think about often. I never knew what I was missing until I tried the towels just last year. Now, you have all helped build My Pillow into the incredible company that it is today, and you've trusted Mike Lindell to give you a great night's sleep. Mike's now changing the game with his 6-piece towel set. The set's made with USA cotton, making it extremely absorbent, and yet still providing that soft feel you look for in a towel. The set comes with 2 bath, 2 hand towels, and 2 washcloths, typically retailing for $109.99. But for a limited time, you can get this set for the low price of $39.99. And that's using promo code Sam Sorbo. So remember, all My Pillow products come with a 60-day money-back guarantee. You just go to mypillow.com, click on the radio listener specials to get this insanely low price of $39.99 on the towel set. You'll find deep discounts on other My Pillow products as well. So enter promo code Sam Sorbo, or you can call 800-625-5983. That's 800-625-5983 for these great radio specials. Sorbo, we've discovered, my husband and I, a great American company that supports our traditional values and also the work we're doing to rescue our culture from the lies of the left. So I want you to go check it out. It's called nutramedics.com, nutramedics.com. And you can find there great health and wellness products that are derived from the rainforests. I've found that they work incredibly for me. I take their melatonin. I get a much better night's sleep with that. I also take their Relax Medics and their Mood Medics, which are, I don't know what they are, but they're this natural blend of herbs basically, and really easy to take. They actually droppers, and I just love their products, and I love what they stand for because they have a heart for this nation and they have a heart for people. And I don't know how you would have one without the other, and that's why maybe they have both. But I just love what they do. So go to nutramedics.com, and you can actually go to sorbo.nutramedics, and that's with an X, sorbo.nutramedics.com. If you use Sorbo at checkout, you'll get a discount on anything that you purchase there. So go check it out, get a better night's sleep, get a better day, feel better about yourself. They've got a lot of great products there, including vitamins. I use them all. So trust me, it's great. nutramedics.com. And thank you so much for listening. Hi there, I'm Sam Sorbo, and my guest now is Robert Bortins. He is the Chief Executive Officer of Classical Conversations Incorporated, which is a job that he was literally born for. His mom, Lee Bortins, of whom I'm a huge fan, started Classical Conversations years ago on the heels, basically, of almost completing Robert's education, his home education. And he went on to get a degree in engineering, but eventually turned around and came back to run the company that his mother and father created. And so he's joining me now on the Sam Sorbo Show. Welcome to the program.
Hey, Sam, thanks for having me.
Well, it's great to see you. We've met several times in person. And of course, I use Classical Conversations for all 3 of my children and still do. And I've tutored and directed, and those are sort of in-house terms, but I've taught through Classical Conversations for a few years also. So I'm a devotee, and it's just a great pleasure to speak to you and talk to you a little bit about your journey, because this wasn't something that you had intended necessarily to do. But you seem to have settled in very, very well.
Yeah, growing up, I enjoyed homeschooling tremendously. I love the freedom it gave me an opportunity to really pursue my passions as a young person. And I thought I wanted to study computer engineering, and I was actually able to get an internship at a computer engineering company in high school, where if I was stuck in a school building 8 hours a day, that obviously wouldn't have been possible. And yeah, so classical conversations started when I was in high school, and people always ask me, did I always want to see myself in classical conversations? Well, it wasn't really a business yet when I was younger. It wasn't until I got a phone call from my mom when I was in college telling me that my dad had quit his job so that he could help homeschool my younger brothers. And she was going to make classical conversations a real organization, and that I had to pay for college myself. So that was the first time that I had really heard about classical conversations and the directions my parents were taking it in.
Yeah,
But
you've recently started a podcast, and I heard the podcast about your story, and I thought, wow, that's cold. His mom just called him up and went, "Okay, kid, we're cutting you loose. You're halfway done with college. Good luck with that, by the way."
yeah, so that was, I think homeschooling prepared me for that because we had a love of learning and we were able to just kind of know how to tackle anything. And yeah, so I was an industrial engineer for 6 years after college, and making widgets faster was gratifying, but didn't really have an internal impact. And I felt like I had a good testimony and was able to tell parents that if my family, with all of our flaws, were able to homeschool, get into college, work our way up the corporate ladder, if that's something that's interesting to your family, I know that you can do it too. And so that was when I decided to come and help my parents out at Classical Conversations, and just kind of transitioned over the last few years the leadership position with my mom, so she can just focus on a new curriculum she's writing in math called the Math Map. And I run the day-to-day operations to make sure our families are supported here at the home office.
When is the math map coming out? Do you know?
Well, we are hoping for 2024 with some more piloting going on in 2023. So next couple years, and it's a full K through 12 curriculum, which takes a long time to write to make sure everything lines up. And it's really designed for families with multiple kids so that parents can really practice math as a family, so that the third grader and the eighth grader are learning similar ideas at the same time. And it's going to really be really beneficial to creating a conversation around math for the family.
Yeah, it's a completely different way of, well, it's almost a completely different way of looking at education in a sense. So it's still a curriculum. So we have the comfort of knowing that we have this support structure from K through 12 if we choose to continue it, right? But at
Yep.
the same time, it takes math out of the proverbial classroom with a teacher teaching and a student just absorbing, and it works to involve the student in the learning process and in the teaching process at the same time. And this is the beauty of the classical method of teaching and learning. Um, you mentioned that you created faster widgets or better widgets faster or something like that, which I thought was such an interesting analogy for you working as an industrial engineer, because I often say that in our school system, they treat the kids as if they're widgets, and they just stuff in a bunch of information, and they believe that at the end somehow they will, somehow a fully formed human with an education will emerge. And that's not how humans work.
No, not at all. Every human is unique. We're made in the image of God, and we're made for a purpose. And that purpose as a Christian is to glorify Him. And making everyone the same is not going to be very useful, except for our leaders who want to control everything. It's very helpful to be able to control a mass if everyone thinks the same way, acts the same way, and has the same standard interpretation of how the world should be. But I believe we're all unique individuals and we should be given a unique education that's tailored to us. And really, homeschooling is the best and really only way to do that.
Yeah, and not only that, like you say, thinks the same way and acts the same way, but actually, even more importantly than acts just like each other, acts obedient to leadership, right? And that's what
Yes.
that's like the overarching lesson of school is pay attention to the teacher and do what the teacher says. You follow the rules, you follow directions, and you don't ask questions. And of course that doesn't lead to innovation. That squelches creativity and all of the other sort of bad byproducts that we get out of our schools. That we, I don't know. Do you think we just give them a pass because we went to school or something?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. Obviously, pre-pandemic, I think parents just thought that they were getting the same education, their children were getting the same education that they received, and all the things that had happened when they were in school were still happening today. And obviously, that was exposed during the Zoom era, and just the teachers coming out and clearly trying to manipulate the kids to believe certain things that were against their parents' wishes or against their parents' values, and just being really open about that and public about it, really for the first time during COVID. And so I think that opened up a lot of parents' eyes, and why we've seen that explosive growth in homeschooling from roughly 2 million children being homeschooled to estimates between 4 and 6 million being homeschooled today. So I think, parents are waking up, but they still feel trapped and not sure what to do, or they've got so many bills and inflation's through the roof that they're not sure how they can afford to be on one income, or, homeschool for those type of reasons as opposed to academic reasons.
There's a lot of fear among the parents of taking on this daunting task of education. What do you, first of all, what do you attribute that to? And secondly, how do you assuage that?
Yeah, I call it I was a big Star Wars fan growing up, and in the first movie, A New Hope, they say fear will keep the planets in line, fear of this Death Star. And so I think that cloud of fear is something that the establishment wants to put over those parents' head. You're not good enough, you need experts, all of those things. And I think just what you need is people one-on-one talking to their neighbor and saying, hey, I homeschooled, it's possible. Sharing stories, really letting people know, like, hey, it doesn't matter if you have an eighth grade education, you can homeschool. It doesn't matter if you're a PhD and have your teacher's certificate, you can homeschool. That there's resources available, whether it's classical conversations or one of the other, tens, if not hundreds of companies out there now supporting homeschoolers. They've got curriculum that's designed for you, the homeschooling parent, to be able to educate your child well. There's plenty of homeschool groups to be able to join and get other parents around you to support you. So I think it's just dispelling the myth that you need to be an expert to teach your kids. Right? You teach them to walk, you teach them to talk, you teach them to tie your shoes. You don't need an expert to do that, and you don't need an expert to teach them math, history, reading, or writing.
You have three kids yourself, so you've already gone through this a little bit. They're still young though.
Yeah, yeah. I have a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 2-year-old. So yeah, the oldest two are in classical conversations communities, and I've been, helping them learn to read, especially the 5-year-old boy. He didn't really engage with my wife so much on the reading level. So, I sit down with them on a nightly basis and go through our phonics together. And this is just a joy to see the eyes light up in your children, and when they figure it out and understand different things, and being able to sit down with my daughter at night and practice reading some of the books with her as well, and just seeing her be able to move. I mean, there's nothing more joyful to a parent than seeing your parent children learn, and actually like learning and love learning, and talk about what they're learning. And you don't see that love of learning really in the government school systems. They try to squelch it. They have bells, raised hands, standardized curriculum that's not designed for the student but designed for the administrators. And so it just doesn't work.
Yeah, it's interesting. I hadn't thought of this, but it's a really interesting point to put forward to parents. I think it's something that we've just grown to accept because we've all grown up in this culture of government schools, right? That you drop the kids off at preschool, you pick them up from kindergarten, first grade. What'd you learn today? Oh, mommy, I learned this, and we talked about this, and then this happened, and blah blah blah. And then by fifth grade, there's no more of that.
Hmm.
It's what did you learn today? Nothing.
No, maybe they were
Well,
telling us the truth.
yeah. Well, yeah, there's that, but there's also this idea that
Sure.
that the school makes learning hard work. And they
Hmm.
and they project that on the kid. They go, learning's hard. And it's not. But it's projected and it's accepted in our culture because they've projected it on us. So we accept that learning's hard and teaching's even harder, right? And so we just accept that and we adopt that attitude, and then that renders parents basically paralyzed. They're like, well, I don't like what's happening in the schools, but I can't do it because
Hmm.
what we've been taught that we can't do it, Robert.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the system wants to reinforce itself and doesn't want people to leave it. So it's going to create processes and ideas and thoughts around that idea of saying, hey, you got to give your children over to us. We know best. We're the experts. You can't trust yourself. You don't know your own child. What if you screw them up? Versus, I
What
think
if you?
yeah,
That's a
we're
big
pretty
one.
confident that you are going to screw them up based on what we're seeing, unfortunately, from a lot of young people today and our college students. Not at
Yeah,
classical conversations, obviously, but from the government school system.
yeah, that's a great retort. What if I fail? What if I screw them up? Well, look at their track record. Like, do you think maybe you could beat that? The whole gender confusion, all of that stuff with your kids.
Yeah.
You
Well, now
serve
it's not
on,
even gender confusion. Now they're putting doggy litter and kitty litters in bathrooms in
yes,
conservative school districts to help the furries feel accepted.
I do think it's at a certain point we have to admit to ourselves that there's an agenda at work and there are people in play that are exerting an agenda, and not that everybody in that school has bought into it, but there are powerful forces that are silencing even the majority.
Yeah, I know we had a teacher in Louisiana stop teaching to homeschool with classical conversations. And she was telling us that the Christian ladies who were teachers in her public school, in her church, told her, don't quit, just, hold your nose and teach the stuff that we have to teach because we need to be there for the kids. It's like, okay, well, all you're teaching these kids is that you don't actually believe, what you're believing, what you're saying you believe when you go to church on Sundays, and that it's more important to collect a paycheck from the government than to stand up for what is right and wrong.
Yeah, sadly, the best thing you could do is stay in the situation and not teach what they're telling you to teach, but teach what you fervently believe, right? And get
Yep.
fired for it. Like that would be the bet. Take a stand and show people what it looks like to take a stand, and that you're resilient, and that taking a stand is meaningful and worthy, right? But instead, what they're doing is they're kowtowing to the system and exhibiting exactly the wrong message that that they shouldn't be sending. I read in your bio that you serve on the academic board of the classical learning test. Can you briefly go over that? Because I know we're running out of time, but just tell us what the classical learning test is and what it means to serve on their academic board. It sounds like you're a brainiac.
Well, I always say I'm usually the dumbest person in the room, but if you read business books, that's what you want to be. You always want to be surrounded by smarter people. The classical learning test is a competitor to the ACT and SAT, and it's trying to bring truth, beauty, and goodness back to college entrance exams as well as end of grade testing, and really pulling from classical material. So children are learning and being tested on beautiful, great works instead of the garbage that is being put into the ACT and SAT. And you can learn more at the just Google classical learning test, and you can learn all about it. It's less expensive, it's less time consuming, and you get better results and a better test. So Unfortunately, teachers teach to the test, and if you're teaching to the ACT or SAT, you're teaching to woke garbage. So we were trying to give an alternate. So private schools or homeschoolers or anyone who wants to get rid of this hamster wheel of insanity has an option to opt out and still get a end of grade test that is relevant and gives colleges insights into who would be successful at their university.
I love the colorful language you use, and I wish you were more assertive with your opinions, Robert. But I guess we'll take what we can get. So, classical conversations. You can go to classical conversations. Is it .com?
Yep.
Yeah, and you can look up if there's already community near you, and if there isn't, you can always start one. That's the beauty of classical conversations. Before we go, Robert, I I just want to say, when you talk about truth, beauty, and goodness, which is in a sense a definition of God, right? So we constantly, with education, we should be seeking God. And the way that we seek God is we seek the truth, the beauty, and the goodness in the world through the various disciplines that we have, but they all center around God. And this is something that I took from your mom's curriculum, your mom's program. And it is a gift that I felt that she gave me that changed my life and changed the lives of my children. And for that, I'll be forever grateful. I
Mhm.
appreciate you appearing on the podcast with us. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. It was wonderful to be here today, and thank your audience. And yeah, you can find my podcast, Refining Rhetoric, and we release every other week, and it's on your favorite podcast platform.
Yeah, it's a great podcast, Refining Rhetoric with Robert Bortins, and who is now the CEO of Classical Conversations. All right, that's it for me. Thank you. This is the Sam Sorbo Show. We'll see you next time.